Hello, and thank you for joining me. My name is Kim. Today we will have a discussion on the 6 assumptions of the Andragogical model of learning. The focus of this particular model is on adults and their learning process. So we will go through each one of the assumptions, and then in addition I will discuss how that assumption is helping to guide my final project. The focus of my final project is actually on recruitment. So let's begin. So assumption number 1, the need to know. So adult learners need to know why they need to learn something. So more specifically, you really should be explaining then the benefits to them having that learning, and also what could happen from them not having that knowledge. So in my particular final project in the video, I'm going to explain 2 things that are happening in the area of recruitment. One, that most companies find it's their biggest challenge, being able to find the talent that they need for their openings. And the second trend is the fact that HR, or human resources, has really been stepping back in more of a kind of planning and supportive role, and allowing the non-HR departments to really seize the opportunity to do their own recruiting efforts, under, of course, the HR's guidance. So therefore, knowing these 2 things, the ability to then obtain this knowledge is really adding value to the employee. So that's why it's really beneficial to have knowledge of this area. Now, what's the downside if you don't? Well, most likely your department will be involved in recruiting efforts, and you wouldn't want to miss that opportunity by being able to contribute, but also being able to participate. So by having this knowledge, it really puts you kind of more in the forefront. Assumption number 2, the learner's self-concept. So the learner needs to be responsible for their learning through self-direction and decision-making. So you really need to give them opportunities to kind of apply the knowledge that they're gaining, but also kind of in their own terms. So the application in my final project for this assumption would be to have them demonstrate their learning by applying the concepts that we've discussed, and then executing their own decision making. So a more specific example would be having the learners critique their current recruitment systems at their own companies. So pointing out what areas are done real well, and then what areas need some improvement. But also for those areas that need improvement, why do they need improvement, and then what recommendations and what implementation of plans would you then suggest to then help your own company to improve. So I'm going to have them do this actually at the beginning of the video as well as the end, in hopes that then not only to myself but to them, it should really demonstrate the learning that's occurred, and also the value that they're bringing back to their own perspective companies. Assumption number 3, the role of the learner's experience. So obviously adult learners have a lot of experience that they bring. They might have worked in multiple jobs, multiple departments, multiple people. So therefore they bring so much to the workplace, and they just want to share. So the application for my final project is allow them to share. So not only having them do these critiques of their own companies, but then I'm going to ask them to read 2 other classmates' critiques and then kind of provide peer feedback to them. So this not only opens a dialogue between learners, but it also hopefully will allow some best practices to emerge across different companies and even across different industries, and that should be an interesting outcome. Assumption number 4. So readiness to learn is basically creating an environment in which the learner believes that they can learn the information, but also they can see why they kind of need that information now, and that it is applicable to them now. So how should we go about to kind of create this environment? I think this can be done in a couple different ways in regards to the final project. So one would be to have them address their roles that they have played in recruiting efforts outside of the workplace, even if they weren't aware that they were doing recruiting. So I would ask them to give me non-work related experience where maybe they have been involved in recruitment? Or if not, what would they do if they were in those positions? So just to give you some examples. So let's say they were on a community project and they needed to recruit volunteers. How would they have gone about doing that? What if they're involved in a professional association and they're trying to raise their membership? How would that be done? So once again, this would just kind of create that situation where they're applying that knowledge right now, but also demonstrating how this can be then applied to their workplace, but also to their lives as well. Assumption number 5, orientation to learn. So adult learners want to not only learn for their current jobs, but also for the extension of their personal lives and activities outside of the workplace. So this, once again, can be coupled with that previous example I gave about having them develop either non-work experiences that they have recruited in, or how they would handle those. And this is kind of a good idea because even if they haven't been involved, most likely as we move through our phases in life, and once they may hit retirement or maybe they're working still part-time or not at all, they may take opportunities to do more volunteering or community outreach or other ventures that maybe they couldn't do when they were working full-time. And lo and behold, recruitment actually may be one of those activities. So last but not least is assumption number 6. So this is our motivation. So adult learners can be motivated extrinsically as well as intrinsically. So when we talk about extrinsic motivation, this is where you get something externally, meaning when I complete the task, I get something from someone else for that completion of the task. So it could be praise from my boss, praise from my colleagues. It can be a promotion. It could be a better job assignment. Intrinsically, basically, is when I derive from the task kind of something that I give myself. So a sense of completion, a sense of fulfillment, a sense of achievement. Now, usually adult learners, they may be motivated by both. Oftentimes, the intrinsic at this point may be a little bit greater, but I think it's necessary to actually develop both. So how then is this applicable to my final project? Well, during the course of the project, I intend to connect the dots. This is what you can get from having this knowledge and kind of seeing the process through in your own companies. You might then get a better job assignment. You might get praise, recognition, and so forth. In addition, it might actually make you feel good that you bringing this knowledge back and just adding value. You might feel like you're really just being self-fulfilling, have that feeling of self-accomplishment and so forth. The second part of this is then to sustain their motivation throughout the learning process. So how do you do this? Well, once again, I intend to come into the video at different pieces of the video just to kind of rehash what we've done, offer them some other questions to think about, and that would be completed as an assignment in the course website and shared with their peers. And then in addition, I would just offer them encouragement, great job, keep up the good work, but also let them know I'm available if they have questions or concerns, if they need additional readings or they're just interested in a particular topic. So I think that motivation piece is kind of twofold in the approach. So looking at these 6 assumptions, it really is a good way to kind of set up guideposts as you develop your learning activities for your adult learners. And I really think it's something that I know I plan to continue to use in the future, and you may find it beneficial to you as well. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you on our next discussion. Thank you again.